I was looking at this graph here where there was like the average BMI in different countries. There was countries with an average BMI from 20 to 22.9, and there were countries more like those that were countries more like poor countries: Bangladesh, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Sri Lanka, Congo, Nepal, Vietnam, Burundi, and India, Afghanistan, Uganda, Pakistan, Singapore, Kenya, Mali, Togo, Senegal, Niger, Madagascar, all those countries. And I found another website, this is it. And there was kind of like a macronutrient ratio thing for different countries. There was the daily caloric consumption in the world. And for example, if you look again at this little chart here, you can see that, for example, India they have the men have an average BMI of 22.0, and the women have an average BMI of 21.4. So if you then look again at this caloric macronutrient thing, you can see like how much dairy and eggs, meat, other stuff, sugar and fat and grains and produce the people in this certain country eat. And then if you click at like India, you can see they eat quite high amount of grains, 57% of grains. That's 1,394 calories, and some sugar and fat, 90%, only 1% of meat, 8% of dairy and eggs, 7% produce, and 7% others. So they're the country that's listed up here with the highest grain or carbohydrate consumption and the lowest fat consumption. They eat 2,400 calories, so that's not that little. And then if you go back to this chart where you can see countries with an average BMI thing, you can scroll down and then you see countries with an average BMI of 23 to 24.9. There you have those African countries a lot, and some Asian as well, like Angola, Nigeria, Benin, Ghana, Malaysia, Thailand, Liberia, China, Estonia, North Korea, Ukraine, Denmark, Uzbekistan, and there you can see those have a higher BMI than the ones before a little bit. They're still not obese, but they have a lot more in the normal range, what is normal in Europe, in the European countries and in the usual Western countries, I'd say. Well then, if you look at, for example, if you look at North Korea, they have an average BMI of 23.9 for men and 25.1 for women, so an average of 24.5. Then if you look again at this, what the world eats, you can see that North Korea here eats only 2,100 calories, but has 63% of carbohydrates, like grains, then 10% of fat, 8% of other stuff, 5% meat, 1% dairy and eggs, 30% produce. But what is like, I think a little bit, what sticks out is that they eat less calories than the people from India. Like you can see here, people from India eat 2,458 calories a day on average, but the people from North Korea eat only 2,100 calories, but they are heavier, which what you can see here. Because if you go to North Korea, you can see average BMI of 24.5, but India only has an average BMI of 21.7. So I think that's quite interesting. And then you can scroll down here again, and then you get to the more like really big, I would say, overweight people. There you can see a lot of Western countries, the United States, a little bit of South America, some African countries, Europe, and like Russia and China, and some Asian countries as well, but more like the industrial countries. Then if you look at that, there you got South Korea, and the average BMI is at 25.3, 25.2 for men, 25.3 for women. And if you look again at what the world eats, you can see here South Korea, they eat 3,300 calories, but they have a much fewer intake of grains and carbohydrates at only 43%, then a lot of sugar and fat, like processed stuff, like 26%, 6% other, 12% meat, 4% dairy and eggs, 9% produce. So they eat a lot of fat and meat and sugar, like sugar in combination with fat. Obviously isn't healthy and is obesity promoting. Eat a lot of animal products as seen here. Not that many grains, but more calories, but they have. Then you can scroll down again, and then you get like to the obese countries. Or you can see there is the United Kingdom, Germany, something in Asia, I don't know what, Australia, Egypt, like Chile and Argentina, the United States and Mexico, and then you can see like the United Kingdom or like Germany. For example, here the United Kingdom, they eat 3,400 calories, but they have a quite balanced diet, or what is considered a balanced diet, like only 26% carbohydrates, 0.5% fat and sugar, 8% other, 14% of meat, 15% of dairy and eggs, and 11% of produce. So they're also eating a very low carb, high fat, high protein, high animal product diet. And then if you look at the Germans, which aren't that thin as well, they have even fewer grain intake, a higher sugar and fat intake. Other is 10%, meat 12%, dairy and eggs 19%, and 9% produce, and they eat 3,500 calories on average. And then you can look again at the Australians, which aren't pretty skinny as well. We eat fewer calories, but fewer calories than the Germans at 3,200 calories. They eat 30% of sugar and fat, 8% of other stuff, 17% of meat, 15% of dairy and eggs, 8% of produce, and only 22% of grains, aka carbohydrates. So I think we can notice a pattern here, like the highly obese countries eat more calories, yes, but I don't think that it's the high calorie consumption, because as we were able to see, like at North Korea, which is at the like average BMI range from 23 to 24, but it's heavier than India, for example, which averages on 21 at a BMI of 21. So here you can see North Korea only 2,100 calories, but India 2,500 calories, and you can see that South Korea has a way higher intake of sugar and fat, and a higher intake of meat and dairy than, for example, India, who has only 1% of meat, 8% of dairy, so that means only 9% of animal products, but a very high grain and carbohydrate consumption, while their diet isn't necessarily pretty high carb, I guess, but it's higher in carbs than the other countries, as you can see, for example, here Brazil, Argentina, Hong Kong, Russia, Cuba, North and South Korea, Libya, Kuwait, etc. so on. So I think what we can see here is that calories doesn't really equal calories, because one thing I think is that carbohydrates are way better to process for the body and can get used as fuel a lot better and better to store a few of them in excess. And if you eat carbohydrates or grains, if you eat carbohydrates in general, you're much more likely to eat like fruits and veggies also. You get more nutrients, more micronutrients than if you, for example, eat meat, dairy, stuff like that. So what I also wanted to show you is here's that what I eat around the world is like what the people eat around the world. Anyway, guy here who is then here. That's what I wanted to show you guys. Here's this mother of 8. This woman from obviously this woman is pretty active. She's a farmer and is a mother of 8, but she eats almost 4,000 calories. And if you look at the diet, she eats a lot of grains. I think that's grains here: potatoes, sweet potatoes, greens, more grains, bread, some kind of stew or tea or something. So that's what. So keep in mind, this woman is eating pretty high carb and looks pretty slim to me. And then you can see this tribes woman from the Himba who eats only 1,500 calories a day. Well, she's not fat by all means, but she looks like she has a similar physique to this woman that eats 3,800 calories. But as you can see, the diet consists of a lot of grains. I think that here is rice or some kind of flour. But she also has a quite high dairy intake. I think that should be dairy, and if she eats that a day, that's a lot. So that could explain why this woman has a similar physique to the woman who eats 3,800 calories, but she only eats 1,500 calories. And here, that's what I found pretty interesting. Here's this sumo wrestler, and wrestlers are doing a lot of stuff, so they're pretty active. They're training all day long, and I think their training is pretty, exhausting. But he only eats 3,500 calories, so he eats fewer calories than this mother of 8. Who ate 3,800 calories. And as you can see, yes, he eats a lot. He eats some rice, but he also eats fish, and I think that's chicken and soda or something, what that might be. So I think his dairy and meat intake is quite high as well. That might explain why he is able to bulk up and obviously get fat when this other woman here eats 400 calories more and stays slim. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Hope that was kind of interesting. And yeah, that's all I want to say. I don't think that carbs make you fat. I also don't think that calories make you fat. I think it's what macronutrient ratio you eat. If you're healthy, if you eat a lot of micronutrients.